Alright, this is going to be a video about the Lemo drop. The drop is a smaller version of the regular size Lemo. It's 2.7 milliliter capacity and 23 millimeters in diameter. Now, I'm going to try to be short with this. Like, the last attempt was 22 minutes, so yeah, I tend to ramble. I apologize if that happens again. But I've been meaning to do this video for a while because I don't use Lemo anymore, and I'll get into the reasons why. So it's just really been sitting here, and yeah, this is numerous attempts at doing this video, and I keep getting text messages. I never get text messages. I swear, everything that could happen when I film a video happens. My cat scratches, a cat meows, people text me, people call me, and none of this shit happens when I'm not doing videos. Anyway, there the cat goes. Anyway, I'm just gonna ignore that. So this is the Lemo drop, and I don't remember exactly where I got it from. I'll put it below, but I think it was eBay. I'm not 100% sure, but I'll put where I got it below. They're usually around $40. Some places you can get it cheaper. Anyway, yeah. So this is what it looks like. I mean, the way it looks, I actually like it, so it's nothing like that. And when it vapes, when it's working well, you know, it does vape well. And, you know, I like the drip tip that comes with it. It's pretty wide, and it fits nice and securely in there. It's got a glass tank, which is nice, so you're not messing with polycarbonate or whatever that crap is. You can adjust the airflow at the bottom, which is kind of a pain because you have to take this base off. And I guess the reason why this is configured this way is so that you can use it as a hybrid device with, it's like the Joytech something. I forget what it is. It's like a really expensive, it's got like the screen that you could like personalize pictures and stuff. I don't know, like way too much. But you can hybrid onto there, which, I don't know, the whole hybridizing, however you want to put it, with tanks, especially with mechanicals, which, you know, the Joytech one isn't a mechanical, but it scares me. I don't really like it. I like the extra layer of security, but I would imagine it would fix one of the issues that I have with it, which is one of the biggest issues, is the resistance on this thing likes to jump around. And I don't know if it happens with every device, but it definitely happens with the Cannoli 100 watt. And I will say that I thought it was the Cannoli at first, because I had just gotten it when this issue started. Like, I got these kind of around the same time, and I thought it was the Cannoli. But I've tried 2 different drippers and 2 different tanks, and none of those do it. So it's definitely the Lemo. And upon doing further research, like online, because I'm always on the forums and watching reviews and all that, there's many people having this issue. So it's definitely with the device. It has something to do with the way this is configured, and I guess there's like a way to like pull out this screw or something, like do something to this, and it makes a better connection with that, and it doesn't do that anymore. But that's not the only issue I have with it, which I'll get into in a second, so I just didn't feel like messing with it. Another issue among those lines is how far in this middle screw, like the 510 is. This is the sub-tank, the Kangaroo sub-tank mini, and you can see that, you know, it's got a little bit of a protruding center connection there, that little gold brass, whatever you want to call that part. It sticks out a little bit, which helps with connection and, you know, consistent readings and all that. This goes inward, and you can, I believe, screw this out, but the problem with that is that if you unscrew it too much, it like falls out. Like, there isn't a lot of give to how far you can unscrew this. for it to, you know, just come out completely. So I don't like that. It's really obnoxious. And what happens is, or was happening to me, is because the resistance wasn't accurate, when I would fire it, it would fire way too hot. So it just was not a good experience. I prefer a relatively cooler vape than most people. I don't really like sub-ohming. I usually stay around 1 to 1.2 ohms and then about 15 watts. I have gone up to 20 with certain like e-liquids and stuff, and it was okay, but in general I like to stay at 15 watts, sometimes even lower. It just depends on the juice. So that gives you any idea of like how I like to vape. I also vape high VG. I have to do 70 VG or higher, or else I get that PG reaction. So another issue, which is on, you know, around the same area, and it's the other major issue I was having, is the fill screw rusts because it's not stainless steel, which is obnoxious. I wish manufacturers or whoever's designing this shit would stop doing that. Anything that comes in contact with liquid, especially e-liquid that you're going to be inhaling, shouldn't be able to rust. Like, that doesn't even make sense. I did try finding replacement screws because I've had to do this with my Omega dripping atomizer, and those were easy to find. Like, they were very expensive. You got like 4 of them, and I paid like maybe $5 or something like that. But for some reason, at least when I looked, I couldn't find any that were specifically for Lemo. And yeah, you could go to like a hardware store or something and probably find something that would fit, but we don't really have any hardware stores around here. I'd have to go out of my way to get it, and I work nights, so I'm generally not up until later in the evening. It's a hassle that I don't want to deal with. I'm not really big in shopping like in stores. I'd prefer pretty much to buy everything online if I could. So, you know, it's just it's gross, and I definitely can taste it. I don't know if the average person would, because I'm really picky. Like, I'm very picky about my juices, so something like that is even more detectable to me than it might be to somebody else. But it's just something to keep in mind. And like I said, I don't think vaping rust is healthy. Like, I don't think you should be doing that. So that was like another big thing. It does come with this weird silicone plug, which is really oddly designed. And the problem is the one that actually fit like securely, I lost it. I have no idea where it went. Because the problem is with like all these little things is that when you're rinsing, you know, cleaning off your tank and everything, because I clean mine pretty frequently, they tend to go down the drain and also they're crap. So I imagine that's what happened. And since it's clear, it's harder to see than something else would be. But anyway, this little nipple looking thing goes where the fill screw would go, and then like the circle just kind of sits on the outside of it like that, and then when you screw this base on, it kind of like secures it in there. But the problem is because this doesn't seal well, it's like too big or something, it's not in there like perfectly like flush with the thing, so then it's like uneven, and then when you're turning it, it actually pulls it kind of out of the hole, so then it starts leaking. And which is another issue, is that filling it and or trying to take the juice out is a pain in the ass. Like, if you don't have a syringe or one of those needle top dripper bottles, which aren't really very common, you're gonna have a bad time filling it or trying to get the shit out of there. It's a pain. Like, you pretty much have to take the whole thing apart, and you can kind of try to keep holding like this glass in place and pour it out, but you're not gonna get it's messy, and you end up wasting a lot of e-liquid. It's just not practical at all. And because it's basically screwed into place, if you want to, you know, change your liquid and everything, it's a hassle. And the way the fill port is designed, it's kind of like conical, so you really need like a needle to kind of fit in there. You can't just kind of like because like I've never really had this issue with other tanks, because even I think the Fogger had a similar like fill port situation, but when you would just flip it like a regular, like kind of like the rounded droppers that are pretty common, or the little eyedropper kind of things, those worked fine just because of the way the fill port was designed. It was like designed to flow more freely than this is. It's like almost gets stopped up really quickly. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but basically you end up overflowing, and then it goes all inside, and inside that little inner part, which isn't good, and that exacerbates the rusting of the screw, which is not something that you want. Another issue, which is along the same lines, is that if you have any problem with your coil or want to change your e-liquid or anything like that that requires getting into this inside part, you have to take it completely apart and, you know, deal with losing juice and all that other crap, which is a hassle. I think that's about it. Oh, and you can see the rust. It actually goes up through where that screw is, so it's not even just on the outside, because if it was just on the outside and not touching the juice, I wouldn't be as offended by it. But since like you can see the end of the screw, that discoloration, that's rust, so that's coming in contact with your juice, and I can definitely taste it. It's like this metallic, just gross, it's not good. Yeah, and at first I didn't know what it was. I thought it was the coil or something, but then I noticed that it was rusting. I'm like, I bet you that's what it is. As far as like wicking it and putting the coil on, it's really not difficult. At least it wasn't for me. I don't like using the little holes that are underneath the screw, because that you can use those to capture it. And it's not because of how you get it in there. That's actually not that difficult. It's because when I tighten down the screw, a lot of times it would just end up snapping the wire, or if you don't screw it down far enough, then you know, have issues with the resistance, even more so than, you know, the already existing issue with it. So it's a pain, but the wicking really isn't difficult. I do recommend a wider diameter coil, so no micro coils. I mean, at least that's, you know, what worked for me. It was the bigger coils, because using the bigger coils, it just seems to work better, especially with high VG juice. But in addition to that, it provides the perfect amount of wicking material on each side of the coil, because you just like wick it down, and then I stop it right at this base, the top of the deck or whatever, bottom of the deck, whatever you want to call it. So like right there, I would just clip the cotton right there, and then, you know, you just screw this top on, and then you can unscrew this top part and just kind of fluff out the cotton on each side to make sure that all the space down there is covered with the cotton. And I didn't really get any flooding or anything like that, so that wasn't really an issue. And the flavor was great. The airflow was fine for me. If you're like one of those, if you're like a cloud chaser type person or a lung hitter, it's not as wide open as other devices, but it's definitely, especially for a tank, you know, on the wider side of things. But I could see where some people would still prefer more airflow, but it was perfectly fine for me. And I did have it wide open. I don't know where I put it. The little tube thing, the tank, is glass, so that's nice. You have to worry about that. It comes with extra O-rings for like this black part right here, and there's clear ones there, so it comes with a decent amount of spare parts, and then an extra screw for the build deck. Why it doesn't come with 2 extra screws, I don't know, but mine just came with 1. And then you do get an extra fill screw, but again, it's not stainless steel, so kind of sucks. You get wire of some sort. It doesn't specify what kind of wire. I can tell you that it's not magnetized, so it's some kind of weird, somebody said it's nichrome, but I haven't been able to confirm that. But it is not magnetic, because Canthal sticks like a mofo on the back of this Cannoli, because it's got the magnetic door or whatever. So it sticks like crazy. Paper clips, all that crap sticks to this, because the magnets are pretty powerful, and this stuff just does not magnetize at all. I will say that whatever it is, you know, it vapes nicely, because it came with a coil already installed into the device, which is nice, which was even a wider coil than what I have in there, which is a 2.5 millimeter screwdriver that I wrap it around. So it's probably like a 3 millimeter that was installed in here, and it was spaced apart. It wasn't pressed, which actually works really well, especially with high VG juice. It's just when you have to re-wick it, it's kind of a pain, because usually you end up kind of moving the coils, so I ended up just compressing them for that purpose. Yeah, and it comes with 2 of those silicone things, the plugs, which are weird. It comes with a cotton. It doesn't say what kind of cotton it is, just says that it's absorbent. So I haven't used it. I won't use it just because I don't know enough about it to feel right about it. And I have a ton of cotton that I don't need to use it. But it's there. It has like a little guide of like resistance. It'll tell you like what centimeter equals an ohm, which I think is cool. I personally use a calculator online that you just fill in your information and it calculates how many wraps you need to get a certain resistance, which I'll put below. Then it has like a user manual which tells you everything that you get: a mouthpiece, top cap, glass tube, atomizer cover, atomizer tube, atomizer base, connecting base, heating coil, absorbent cotton, and the silicone cover, which I'm guessing the silicone cover is the fill thing. Tells you how to add your liquid, how to adjust the airflow, and how to do your coil, and precautions, which are cool. So I mean, it gives you a nice user manual, which a lot of devices, well, in the past a lot of devices didn't have it. I think it's becoming more and more common, especially with idiots that try to do stupid shit and then end up on the news. They're being a little bit more cautious about, you know, disclaiming things and making sure that, you know, their bases are covered, which they should be doing anyway. But, you know, there is a certain amount of accountability you have to have for yourself. You know, if your safety isn't important to you, you know, why should it be important to somebody else? You know, like, it's just, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, you shouldn't need to tell somebody some things, and you should do your own research. Like, I researched the hell out of everything, especially with this stuff, because it's so, I wouldn't say it's new, but, you know, compared to the alternatives like cigarettes, you know, this is very new compared to that, and somewhat experimental, especially with all this new shit coming out. But, you know, you just have to do as much research as you can, and, you know, anyway, so overall, it's kind of like a love-hate relationship with the Lemo, but I ended up having to part ways with it because mainly the fill port issue with the rusting, that's not something that I'm willing to deal with or tolerate, and the resistance jumping everywhere. It's just not good. I ended up getting the Kanger sub-tank to replace it, this mini sub-tank, because I'd used my dad's before giving it to him to kind of work out any kinks that I could have, and I really kind of fell in love with it. And I've had this for probably a couple weeks now, and I was using his for a couple days, and no real issues so far, and I'll do like a review kind of on it soon. But yeah, I do like it, and it's, you know, working well for my needs, and my dad loves it as well. Anyway, if you have any questions or whatever, put them below.